And welcome back, everybody. It's been over just about 7 months since the last major step towards overhauling immigration died in Washington, and that's when the Senate passed a sweeping reform bill, which still has not even been considered by the House. Well, tonight the president, he's looking to renew that push. And earlier today, our own Andrew Whitman, he spoke with New Jersey Congressman Frank Pallone to get his thoughts on this issue.
Rich, thank you very much. Congressman, one of the big issues everybody's looking to for possible solution, or not solution, but progress this year is immigration. You've co-sponsored a bill calling for comprehensive immigration reform. Do you think there's a chance for it this year?
I think there is a chance. I mean, if there's anything that appears to have bipartisan support, it's immigration reform. Of course, there's still a big difference between the House Democrats and the Republicans, and the main thing is a pathway to citizenship. In other words, when you talk about comprehensive immigration reform, to me it means there has to be a pathway to citizenship for people who, paid their taxes, learn English, haven't gotten in trouble with the law, and even though they may be undocumented, that they have a pathway to become a citizen. The problem is the Republicans in the House leadership hasn't gotten there yet. They talk about immigration reform, but so far they haven't been willing to have a pathway to citizenship.
Well, they are talking about legal status, which I guess would free somebody from the risk of being deported immediately. That's not enough for you?
No, because what I don't want is second-class Americans. In other words, traditionally in the United States, everyone had some way of becoming a citizen. And, if it takes a while, in the Senate bill, it takes 13 years, which I think is too long. But to say that people would be able to stay here and not be able to become citizens, I don't like that. I think it creates some sort of second-class status, and they're not really Americans in the way others are, and that's not fair. So, but I think that we may get there with the House Republicans. I mean, they were not even talking about, legal status a few months ago. So maybe over the next few months they would get to the point where they would actually include a pathway to citizenship.
There's also some talk about maybe the DREAM Act being a little more palatable on the Republican side. Would you be okay doing this piecemeal, doing it one item at a time, or does it have to be all at once? Why?
Well, I think the problem is for most of the 11 or 12 million Americans, if it's not comprehensive, then you're not going to include most of them. So, I mean, I've been a big advocate and voted for the DREAM Act, and I certainly think that's one thing we should do. And as you know, the House Republicans didn't support it last time. So again, that's progress, because now they seem to be supporting citizenship, for younger people. But I still think we've got to go that extra step where those, again, who are here and who have, pay their taxes, learn English, and not in trouble with the law, they should have a pathway. But I think that there's a real possibility that the House Republicans may come around to that at some point.
What do you think is driving their seeming to come around? Is it pressure about the midterms coming in November, or is it altruistic by any chance?
No, it's look, the Republican leadership has always been against immigration reform historically, so I think they're recognizing that this is hurting them politically, and that's okay. Look, whatever it takes. I don't care if that's how they get there, but I think if we keep the pressure up, hopefully we can have, as I say, the pathway to citizenship. I know I sound like a broken record, but I think that's so important.
Finally, Congressman, the president's going to be talking a lot about executive actions tonight. He could take an executive action and drastically reduce or even stop deportations of illegal immigrants. Do you think he should? Why or why not?
I believe that that the Obama administration has gone too far with these deportations, and I would like to see a stop to it. I mean, I understand that you have to deport murderers and people who've been convicted of major crimes, but to just deport people because they came here illegally, I mean, that shouldn't be. So, yes, I would like to see an end to the deportation in general.
All right, Congressman Pallone, thank you very much.
All right.
That's the latest from here in Washington. Rich, let's send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much. Immigration, and I think people forget this bill. The last president offered up, again, in his second term, the idea of immigration reform. And he got support from Democrats on it. It was even more ambitious, more streamlined than this proposal that made it through the Senate. Republicans, it was DOA with them. Is the party coming around on this? Do you think you're going to see this, if not this year and next year, sooner than many people believe?
I mean, the party is coming around, but there is a big division among both conservative intellectuals and among elected Republicans on the immigration issue. You have some conservative Republicans believe that we need the workforce and that it's a good thing. It's going to help, boost the economy a little bit. But others still are concerned about the porous border issue. I mean, if you give status or pathway to a citizenship this way,
But if
you're
you
going to be
start
putting
a
a big
trigger
hunk
bill,
of cheese.
But if you start a trigger and say from this date effective going forward, and if you prove that you're here, you have a job, keep your nose out of trouble here, you learn the language, all those prerequisites, also pay back taxes and stuff like that. It's not just an easy hurdle. Then at least we start a clock going on this. Right now, it's just no man's land. And from a practical level, from a political level, not even from a what's right or wrong, the funny part is a lot of the Latino population, conservative Roman Catholic, they would actually vote Republican on a lot of these issues, but the GOP can't keep getting whiter and older and hope to win national elections. You need this population to win elections.
Absolutely. I mean, politically for the GOP, they need to get this off the table, and I think John Boehner would like to see it off the table in 6 weeks. It's not going to happen, but he'd like to see that. But the reality of it is that you're going to get that pushback on it, and you're going to have the Tea Party faction is going to push back.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Americans who just go wild over this, and George W. ran into that.
And it fits the same exact narrative, Dominic, like the other stuff we talked about. Democrats want to put them in a box here and force Republicans to get along in the box. And on these particular issues, they believe it's rewarding illegality here to give somebody a pathway. Forget about being a citizen, even a pathway to get there if they came here, by climbing under a fence or in the dead of night.
Richard, I don't see a scenario where not going into an election year. We're already in the election year, where Republicans on such a major issue are going to give the president a victory, something that whether they played a major role with it or not, that he can go around the country.
But if they were smart, they would do this. They'd say, you know what, we're going to go ahead against some inclinations and reservations. We're going to support the DREAM Act. Force the president to say, okay, well, if I don't get everything, I won't give you that. Right? Mm-hmm. They should do that more often, I think, Republicans could, which is to give pieces to the Democrats and do it publicly, but don't give them the whole thing. And then force the Democrats to say no to the whole piece.
But as a matter of public policy, like we were talking about before, Reagan made this mistake in 1986 where he gave amnesty, and it was just this last time. This is the last time it's going to happen. And if we do it again, you said you start the clock here. You can start the clock ticking, but we can always go back and say, let's start it again and again and again and again. There's real concern from a public policy standpoint that this may not be the right move,
the funny
although
thing
it's
is,
right politically.
The Latino population themselves, or whatever the immigrant population in this particular case, they would be the ones most vocal. It's funny, if you get in under the wire, you don't want the next guy, right? So we've seen that happen historically. But as a reminder, everybody, we were going to have complete coverage for you at 9 o'clock on this with a State of the Union address. You'll hear from the president in its entirety. It begins at 9 o'clock. Immediately after, we're going to obviously have the rebuttal from the Republicans, and we're going to get your reaction as well. I'll tell you before the hour's out how you can get involved in 9 o'clock, but we're opening up our phone lines and taking your online comments as well. That all begins at 9 o'clock with State of the Union live coverage. Okay, you all know what this week is, and it's not all about the State of the Union. It's about a certain thing called the Super Bowl. Well, the Prudential Center has seen a lot of hockey and basketball games. Well, today it hosted a football media blitz. It's coming up next on RFL. We'll share that with you.